You are now watching The Beach.
2025 has been an insane year for Nintendo. They finally released the long-awaited Nintendo Switch 2. It's definitely an exciting time to be a Nintendo fan, but simultaneously, there has been a huge animosity towards Nintendo this year. I've been a Nintendo YouTuber for many years, and I have never seen as much backlash towards Nintendo until now. I will say, as a critical Nintendo fan, people assume I'm just a hater of Nintendo. People think I actually hate Super Mario Bros. Wonder. Uh-oh, now it's time to change my channel name to some guy who clearly doesn't like Super Mario Bros. Wonder. A lot of the backlash, though, it's justified. There's no excuse for $80 games, but there are an influx of what I like to call sodium chloride Nintendo videos. Sodium chloride videos are videos talking about Nintendo that are only made to capitalize on the Nintendo Switch 2 controversy, often using fancy wording like fake hype and gaslighting in the title to make it seem like there's an issue, when a lot of the time, there really isn't. These are videos often made by people that weren't even Nintendo fans to begin with. I might sound like I'm defending Nintendo, I'm not. It's that sodium chloride videos aren't usually made by passionate Nintendo fans. There are some exceptions. There are channels I enjoy that occasionally post sodium chloride videos, but just because I don't like some videos on the channel, it doesn't mean I don't like the channel in general. The thing is, these videos just don't feel genuine. It feels like oftentimes they're just grasping for straws. Another thing worth bringing up is that just because a video is overwhelmingly critical, that does not make it a sodium chloride video. The Bearman videos are not sodium chloride videos. You don't have to agree with him, though I will say he was kinda spot on with Mario Kart World in many ways. But it's clear he's a passionate Nintendo fan that doesn't like the direction they went in their practices, and there's nothing wrong with that. Despite the scrutiny Nintendo has been under, this is actually a great year to be a Nintendo fan. The main issue is the $80 games. I don't think the price for the Nintendo Switch 2 itself is unreasonable, but if there's one thing you can always count on Nintendo to do right, it's with their games. It's with their games. Yeah, Mario Kart World is very flawed, but we have Donkey Kong Bananza coming up, Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, and even Kirby Air Riders. It's pretty clear all of those games are going to be incredible, but what if you were to take away their great games? Their bad business practices would really start to shine even more. And believe it or not, there was a year not too long ago that showcased Nintendo at their absolute worst. That being 2022. 2022 wasn't Nintendo's worst year. Far from it. They still had quite a few great games with Xenoblade Chronicles 3, Splatoon 3, and especially Kirby and the Forgotten Land. Forgotten Land is one of my favorite Nintendo games. It's a 3D Kirby game I always dreamed of, and it's an absolute masterpiece. I can't wait to revisit it when Starcross World releases. I even enjoyed Kirby's Dream Buffet. It's an excellent little multiplayer game that's often overlooked. I did reviews of both Kirby and the Forgotten Land and Kirby's Dream Buffet, so feel free to check them out. And although it's Ubisoft, you can definitely include Mario and Rabbids Sparks of Hope. But this was a year where Nintendo's awful business practices actually impacted their games. If you've been watching the channel for quite some time, you are well aware of the unholy triforce of 2022 games. All of these games are absolutely awful. Rather than just reiterating how bad they are, I wanted to look at them from a different angle. It isn't just that these games are bad, it's that they go against everything Nintendo is known, loved, and respected for. Nintendo Switch Sports felt like if Microsoft made a Wii Sports ripoff for the Kinect back in 2010. Nintendo completely disassociated the Miis from the game to make room for the Sportsmates, which weren't well received. It lacks the magic the Wii series games are known for. It wasn't just because of the lack of Miis, but the lack of any personality, creativity, or charm. It was the absolute bare minimum, and even then, none of the sports felt as robust as the ones in Wii Sports Resort, or even Wii Sports Club. That's what made it feel like such an un-Nintendo game. It just felt like a cheap imitation. This is a game that Nintendo released unfinished with only 2 sports added later, golf 7 months later, and basketball over 2 years later. These were not substantial updates, and saying they released at a snail's pace would be an over-exaggeration. But in terms of content, Mario Strikers Battle League was even worse. Sometimes, Nintendo will try something new and it doesn't go over well. We saw that with Paper Mario Sticker Star, and we're seeing that with Mario Kart World, albeit not that atrocious. Sometimes, a game will feel very derivative like New Super Mario Bros. 2 and U, but you can still see that they were trying, even if the execution isn't the best. But Mario Strikers Battle League is a rare Nintendo game that does nothing new, and it did the absolute barest of the bare minimum. It's technically a soccer video game with Mario characters. That's literally it. Do you know why the demo has a limited amount of times you can play it, while no other Switch demos do? That's because if it wasn't limited, they'd be giving away the full game, and that is not an exaggeration. Mario Strikers Battle League didn't even attempt to do anything new. Just like Nintendo Switch Sports, it just feels like a bad imitation of what came before it. I replayed Mario Strikers Battle League for the first time in years to get footage, and after replaying it, I noticed that it's completely overcomplicated. Super Mario Strikers is a game that's easy to learn but difficult to master, but Mario Strikers Battle League is made to be overcomplex, especially with the controls. It's like making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, but then you add in the steps of hitting your hand with a rolling pin and dancing around like a ballerina. The first Super Mario Strikers did lack content, but that gameplay still holds up. It Mario-fied soccer beautifully, and it was also the first game in the series. Usually the first time you do anything, it won't be perfect, so the flaws are understandable. But it's still unreal Nintendo released Mario Strikers Battle League and thought, this is okay. It feels like a scam. Although Pokemon isn't directly developed by Nintendo, they had the final say in approving the release of Pokémon Scarlet and Violet. I've given my take on the game many times. If you want my full analysis, I did a review of it. Unlike the prior 2 games, it doesn't lack content or lack ambition, but it's a complete antithesis of what Nintendo stands for. You can enjoy the game, but you cannot deny it was beyond broken and is still broken on the original Nintendo Switch. If you are wondering what my thoughts on Pokémon Scarlet are now, considering it runs at 4K 60 frames per second on the Nintendo Switch 2, here they are. It might not have performance issues anymore, but the game still looks putrid, and it's still fundamentally broken from a gameplay perspective due to the lack of level scaling. It's still my least favorite Pokemon game. Nintendo fans make fun of other games for being buggy and broken at launch, and why not? Nintendo consistently puts out games that are technically sound, even if they're bad. I'd have more fun at a Burger King than playing Mario Party 10, but it runs perfectly. We've earned that flex. But seeing such a broken game get that Nintendo seal of approval, and a Nintendo Switch OLED Special Edition, that genuinely had me concerned for the future of Nintendo. If they could approve of and heavily promote a game that broken, who's to say that couldn't happen again? These 3 games went against everything that makes Nintendo Nintendo. The first 2 are creatively bankrupt, woefully lacking content, and were nothing more than cash grabs. The other released broken, and didn't get fixed until a generation later. But it wasn't just those games that made 2022 such an un-Nintendo year. In retrospect, the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Booster Course Pass made a lot of sense. We now know that Mario Kart World was originally going to be on the Nintendo Switch, but it wasn't powerful enough. But with the first wave of the Booster Course Pass, it was the literal bare minimum. There's nothing wrong with bringing over tracks from Mario Kart Tour, but nothing was done to optimize them for 8 Deluxe. Graphically, they were ripped directly from Tour, and looked very out of place. Considering that Mario Kart is Nintendo's biggest franchise, you would expect more care and respect to be put into bringing over the tracks, but that originally wasn't the case. However, there was a pretty good outcome. Nintendo listened to the backlash, and all the succeeding waves were better. Some tracks were even on par with the base tracks, even if there were a few stinkers here and there. I definitely have strong opinions about the Booster Course Pass, which I'll be fully elaborating on in my upcoming retrospective of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. But considering the high stakes of Mario Kart, Nintendo had to listen. There was also a lack of transparency about upcoming games in 2022. Nintendo only had 2 general Nintendo Directs. The February Nintendo Direct revealed a lot, despite most of the games from that Direct ending up reeking. But September gave us the legendary
Farm.
In retrospect, I'm actually happy the Farm Direct happened. In all seriousness, it did reveal Pikmin 4. That was huge! Although its announcement was a teaser, it made it seem like it would be a late 2023 game that likely would have gotten delayed. But it ended up being a July 2023 game. The memory of the Metroid Prime 4 Beyond announcement from 2017 was and still is vivid. And looking back, the Farm Direct is a really funny meme. It's like E3 2008, where at the time, it was terrible. But it's hilarious looking back, and you're so glad that it happened. But overall, Nintendo did not do a good job communicating what the future had in store. We didn't know whether or not that meant the Nintendo Switch 2 was imminent, or they just wanted to take their time with announcements. It's been 3 years since 2022. We have officially entered a new era of Nintendo, and a lot has happened, leading up to the question of, what went wrong? Why was most of Nintendo's 2022 so un-Nintendo? There are 2 factors. This is all just speculation, and none of this has been confirmed, but it does make sense. For one, the world was just recovering from a global pandemic, meaning that games likely got delayed, and Nintendo had to put out at least something. Now in 2018, that was a year that consisted of mostly Wii U ports, and the only major game was Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. You could also include Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. I also think Nintendo was banking on The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom being the big game for that year, but it ended up getting delayed. Personally, I think Nintendo would have been a-okay if 2022 was a lighter year. Mario Strikers Battle League didn't even crack 3 million copies. If it was developed for another year, I'm sure it would have sold more and probably would have been great. The game sold poorly, mostly due to its bad reputation. But even with major games like Nintendo Switch Sports and Pokemon, we already got Legends Arceus in January 2022. That game was actually really solid, but it could have been even better if it got more time to cook. I really don't get why Pokemon Legends Arceus wasn't the Christmas game of 2022, and Pokemon Scarlet and Violet weren't pushed towards Christmas 2023. They still could have had the yearly release schedule, and the games could have had more time to cook. In no universe was it a good idea to have 2 big open games within the same year. As for Nintendo Switch Sports, that one I understand more why it released when it did. Wii Sports was played a lot during the pandemic, and Nintendo wanted to capitalize on that. Really, they should have ported Wii Sports Club though. That would have been better. My confidence in Nintendo after 2022 was down the toilet, and I was genuinely concerned about their future. But then, things were about to change. 2023 is the best year Nintendo has ever had. We got The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, Pikmin 4, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, excellent remakes of Metroid Prime, Kirby's Return to Dreamland, and Super Mario RPG. And you know what? I even love WarioWare Move It. Even Everybody 1-2 Switch has its moments. 2023 was everything Nintendo stands for. Innovation, creativity, content-rich games, and technically sound games. Even if Nintendo doesn't have a ton of major games ready for a year, they can still have excellent lighter years. Nowhere is this more apparent than with 2024. Rather than releasing new games that felt like nothing more than quick cash grabs, Nintendo opted for excellent remakes of beloved classics. The remakes of Mario vs. Donkey Kong and Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door are incredible. Princess Peach also got her second game, being Princess Peach Showtime. It's a bit too simple, but I still enjoyed it. But the heavy hitters were all towards the end of the year. It was easily the best final year for a Nintendo console, and it's one of my favorite years for the Nintendo Switch, period. What Nintendo is doing wrong in 2025 is mostly business related. Despite what all the sodium chloride videos want you to believe, this is an excellent year to be a Nintendo fan. Donkey Kong Bananza will very likely be my favorite game of all time. I haven't been this excited for a game since Super Mario Odyssey back in 2017. Don't feel ashamed for being excited for the Nintendo Switch 2 and its games, because in the end, we love Nintendo for their games. I'll always cherish when we loved both the company and their games during the Iwata era. I really miss it. But the Nintendo magic is still there with the games, because when it isn't, it couldn't be more apparent. So there you have it. Here's my retrospective of Nintendo at their worst. You might be wondering, do I regret making the Demich's Maximum Fury series covering Nintendo Switch Sports, Mario Strikers Battle League, and Pokémon Scarlet? No, not at all. I despise the games, and my critiques are because I love Nintendo, but it doesn't need to be all serious and purely analytical.
This guy is so damn cheesy that it's hilarious.
I'm not cheesy, I'm just corny.
I analyzed the games, reviewed them, but also incorporated Demich's Maximum Fury. I had so much fun making the segments. It's great to make light and humor out of games I found to be incredibly disappointing. If you want an emo rant, Hot Topic is that way. Demich's Maximum Fury is here to stay. I would say I'm done talking about 2022, but there is a game that released that year that's long overdue for an episode of Trash or Treasure, and I think you know exactly what it is. Trash or Treasure, Mario and Rabbids Sparks of Hope, is finally coming in August. So what do you guys think? Special shout out to Ultra Bomber 64, Soshi the Yoshi, Marcus TZB, Glitzy Terror, Mevins 2001, Colin Wickham, Paper Brothers, Generic Rust, and FastFan07 for being such awesome channel members. You can get a shout out at the end of the video too if you become a channel member. Anyways, thanks for watching and keep calm and dada on.